Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Outhouse Thoughts. This is going to be I'm okay, so I as of now labeled this show perspective. I think it's going to be about that. That's what I plan on being about that. I think it's going to work. I have it mapped out in my head, but who the hell knows, especially with my head. Um, but well, first of all, I want to say if I sound weird, it's because I just got Invisalign and it is strange. It is weird feeling and it is. Do you ever try like wear the toe socks that were big in like the late '90s, early 2000s, and it felt weird because your toes didn't touch? Like now, it's weird because my teeth can't touch. It's like I don't know. Also, they dry up real damn fast, so it makes me drink a lot more. So if you notice me drinking every 3 seconds, that's probably why. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Okay, so perspective. The reason this is going to be a little weird is because I'm kind of tying two things together, and let me just get into it. Doesn't matter. Okay, so recently, again, I should say, recently is absolutely the wrong word because this happens every so often. Fantasy football Twitter gets into this thing about language, and it's like sometimes it's innocuous things that people don't think are a problem. Like I said, innocuous is absolutely the wrong word because people do kind of have a problem with them somewhat somewhere. Um, like we say we own players or we're buying and selling, and it's I guess I mean it's dehumanizing language is which is exactly what it is. It's not because of race, it's not because of gender. It is purely because we are using these phrases and it lowers them down as human beings of the people that we're talking about, especially when you get so many people that feel it's absolutely their place to go onto social media, tag these players and talk to them like they are not human beings, cursing them off for not scoring enough fantasy freaking points to score. It's a fucking game. Like, calm the fuck down. Um, but also, it's just that hold on, I'm breaking everything. Okay, if you are one of those people that tag players, seriously reevaluate your life just because that's not something you should be doing. It is a fucking game about a game, and adding players is one of the worst things you could do on social media. They're just trying to play a game. That's their job. Make a paycheck. I don't give a shit about your fantasy team. They shouldn't give a shit about our fantasy teams. I care about your fantasy teams, but I'm not in the fucking NFL. Yeah. Well, that sort of derailed me for a second. Um, so recently there has been another round of why should we do this? What's the point? Why are you being such a snowflake bullshit? And here's the thing. Um, People think that it's an affront to their rights or their manliness or their attitude if they have to worry about offending people. It is like an attack against your freedom if you can't say derogatory homosexual remarks out loud because you're worried you're going to offend someone somewhere. Again, wrong. Go fuck yourself. There's absolutely no human right you have to say terrible words and hurt other people's feelings without repercussion. I mean, that's not what freedom of speech is. You won't get arrested for saying it, but you get punched in the face. You absolutely deserve it. Just going to put that out there. Um, and so there was this woman at work one time who everyone loves because she's pretty like a foul mouthed trucker kind of woman who talks dirty, curses everything, and everyone like it's just makes her the life of the party. And she's up in front of our entire office one day just going on a rant about something, and she's like, oh, these fucking people get so fucking offended. Why would anybody go and try and change the way they talk just to not fucking offend people? And I literally just stand up like, I'm absolutely that person. I absolutely will change anything I ever say to not offend a single person, because why not? What we say isn't the way we words thing doesn't matter. Let me just start with that. Like, I remember a couple of years ago, there was a movement to stop using the term freshman year, and they wanted to be called first years. First of all, freshman year is an American thing, and it's because There's masculinity to it, fresh man, and why equal sex and everything. And now I completely understand that changing that phrase won't all of a sudden create equality between the genders, between the sexes, however that fight was fought. But it's a step, right? Why not one less thing to take away from the majority and pull you closer to whatever the minority is? And I remember getting into a huge fight at work. Why should I have to change what I've been saying for so long? Who the fuck are you and why does it matter? Why do you matter? Like why does the way you say something matter to the world? And what it comes down to is why not try and make other people's lives better? Isn't that what we aim for? Isn't that the golden rule? You be nice to other people so people be nice to you. And I can tell you right now, the reason he was fighting all of these fights is because he voted for a certain someone who didn't give a shit about offending anyone or anything. And if you haven't noticed by all my fucking takes and everything I say, I'm insanely liberal. So clearly I don't like that man. And I won't make a big deal about it unless it comes up in one of these things I'm trying to talk about. But yeah, there's very harsh words. Yeah, never mind. But like it was like an ongoing fight that he kept trying to bring people in, and a lot of the people who were either most even if you don't want to change the way you say things, it's at least it's an acknowledgement. But I think the problem with that is you're acknowledging you're saying something that hurts people and then don't give a shit. That's where this all goes back to, like, what was it, last show, the show before, the motivation one. Like, doesn't matter why you do it as long as it's putting positivity out into the world. It's making someone's life better. If you can go and yeah, okay, so there was a huge stretch in the early 2000s where it was just the America's craze to use the word gay in a negative manner, which at least around me seems to have mostly gone away, and I am fucking thrilled about that. Um, like, okay, for like 5 years, we've been saying gay as something that's supposed to be negative. And then you find out that you once said that in front of my friend who is gay and that hurt his feelings. And then you don't change. That makes you a little bit of an ass. That makes you a lot of an ass. Because again, that's you choosing to do something to hurt someone else's feelings. Um, and here's yeah, I knew this was gonna be a mess. I have no idea how I'm tying all this together in my brain. So I mean, what always comes next is someone be like, no one's offended by this. What the fuck are you to say? You know what? White dudes say that because white dudes should not get the right to get offended about anything. It at least when it comes to race or masculinity, like screw that. We have it so fucking easy just because we are literally the majority of everything, and we have had the socioeconomic power forever. Um, So, again, clearly insanely liberal. Uh, okay, so I know I just said that white people shouldn't be offended, but I mean I've been holding on to this for a while. I've never said this out loud before, even though it wasn't like that first episode where I said something. I've been holding something in for like 21 years, but I have a friend who just had a baby a year ago, and he never seemed like the kind of person to have a baby. He's pretty selfish. He's a child. He's a good person. Don't get me wrong, but not everyone is parenting type. And that's fine. Absolutely. You don't have to have kids if you don't want to. Um, and his wife had some complications during the pregnancy, and their kid had colic, was colicky, which pretty much just means always had bad reflux, which means you always have a screaming baby on your hand. They grow out of it most of the time. And after a few weeks of baby being in the world, talking to my friend, and I asked him how things are going. How's his wife's name is Kim? How's Kim? How's Dean? Name of the baby. Um, he's like, oh man, these past few weeks have been a living hell. I'm sitting here taking care of this baby by myself with a wife who can't help me, and then I have to try and take care of her at the same time. And in my head, I'm like, living hell. Okay, okay. I don't remember if I've talked about this before, but my wife has fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, and psoriatic arthritis. And she's had the first two, well, I mean, probably all three of them since she was a teenager. So we knew what our futures were going to be. Like we knew we had the talk when we were thinking about having kids that I knew what I was signing up for. I knew I was going to be doing a majority of the kid work, a majority of the housework. Thankfully, she's fucking brilliant and has a great job. Um, but I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, I take care of two kids mostly by myself. Take care of a wife who, for no reason whatsoever, just can't walk that day because her arthritis decides to, and her fibromyalgia and her chronic fatigue decide to kick her in the ass all in one day. And her back hurts too much and her legs don't function. It's just like, okay, cool. No, right. That's my everyday. And you're calling it a living hell. No, that's awesome. And the weird thing is, I will say this is my best friend. You get that weird point where, this person's been your friend since you were 5. You were best friends for like 20 something years. Now you don't talk so often anymore. It feels weird to call him your oldest friend. But yeah, no, like I still kind of say best friend, but I also call other people best friends. Do we have to label best friends anymore now that we're almost 40? I mean, that's just weird, right? But still, it sucked hearing that from him. And I didn't say anything, of course, because I don't want to take away from I don't want to take away from what he's going through, but still, that kind of sucked to hear. Because, like I said, everything is a matter of perspective. This is a living hell from what he's going through because he's never gone through before. It's not necessarily something he signed up for. I signed up for what I'm going through. It was fucking hard, and maybe had I known what it was really going to be like, I may have rethought it. But I fucking love my kids and I love my wife. So right now, I would not say I would go back and change any of it. But it's just like he was throwing out words, letting people know how he felt in words that just meant nothing to him. He was just saying it, not realizing that I've gone through personal things that upset me with what he said. And it's just like, if he took the time to just phrase things in his narrative as opposed to the situation itself, like maybe if he just changed it to him having a hard time. It's just like, to take away from that specific example, just because it's a little harder, because it's not like he used a word, but still it's something he said. Like, the phrase trade rape is the worst, dumbest thing in the world. And it's insane that we're holding on to it as a fandom, whatever we call fantasy football. Like, it's fucking awful. Like, well, I myself have never been a victim of any sexual assault. I know so many people that have been, men and women. And it's just like, I know if I ever used the phrase trade rape in front of my wife, my cousins, like any female that I know, I would probably get punched in the face and I would absolutely deserve it. And it's just like, why? That is a phrase that A, isn't funny in the first place, B, isn't real. It doesn't matter. Like, you know that saying a phrase like that will affect people. Why keep using it? Why do you think you're so fucking special that you have to use this stupid phrase and post it on social media, use it on a podcast? Say, I mean, no one is saying that on TV. Let's put it out there because they probably get fired pretty quickly. But exactly, right? Um, like, why do you think you're so special that you should get to say something so stupid, which you could easily reword and say the exact same thing? You can absolutely get your point across. Now, here's where I know the argument always goes. Well, if we can't say that, what about this? What about that? Like, I remember once I got into the trade rape argument, I got into it in the conversation, and someone used the phrase, sorry for hijacking this post. And then someone goes, well, there's people that have been on planes that were hijacked. How dare you use that phrase? Go fuck yourself. Really? The two have absolutely, It drives me nuts when you try to make comparisons about stuff like this, because what does it matter that, like, you're saying, oh, since we can't not offend everyone, I'm still just going to offend people? No, we know something that we say offends people, so we should stop that one. And honestly, yeah, try and take away as much reliance on violent language as possible. Why not put less negativity and violence out into the world? And I don't know, man. So here's the problem. I knew this wasn't going to go in order. And like, the reason, what else was I going to bring up about perspective and stuff like that? Because I know I brought up at some point, everyone's feelings are valid. And like, I remember one time, and my wife did this by accident, and I brought it up to her, and she even said she felt bad about it afterwards. I told you everything that my wife was going through. And one time her father was complaining that his knees hurt. And she literally went, oh, yeah, what's that like? And he felt so bad about it. And he was just like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. And at the end, and then I talked to her afterwards. I'm like, that was kind of a dick move. And she's like, I know. I was just, again, she was grumpy because her body hurt at the time. But just because you are hurt doesn't mean someone's hurting less isn't valid. But also, not that he shouldn't complain. I don't know, man. See, I did not do a good job of tying this all together. Um, but I guess I will stop rambling in circles and saying, A, just don't be a dick. There's no reason for it. But also, I tie at this point everything back to the good place because that show's just so fucking good. You know, why not try? Why not try to be a good person for the sake of being a good person? Why not try making the world a better place by you being a better person? Put positivity out, other people will see it, and hopefully it just sort of echoes. It just keeps going, it dominoes. And again, it doesn't matter why. I think I've landed on that where motivation may not really matter nearly as much, because if you see someone do something good, whether they're doing it for selfish reasons or not, especially if you don't know why they're doing it, like sometimes you just, someone holds the door for someone, you hold the door for the next person, and then it keeps going. And then, oh, that person held the door for me, let me do this for someone else. And then it keeps snowballing. But, snowball of goodness. Most snowballs are goodness, right? As long as they're not avalanching, right? Snowball fights are fun. Um, but I guess in the end, I don't know. The golden rule means something, why not be good? Because everyone has one thing, right? Like, everyone has to have one thing. I hope everyone has one thing that bothers them, one thing that upsets them, one thing in their past that, like to me, it just wouldn't be fair if like people just didn't have bad things happen to them. That's fucked up, right? Like, it's just like, my brain is what it is and brings its own negativity upon itself, and I can't comprehend people that's a better way to say it. I can't comprehend people that just like skip through life and everything's been working out fine the entire time. But it's not that I don't like those people, not that I wish badness upon them. I That was wrong. I apologize. What was I saying? I don't remember anymore. um you know and then one day they're going to find themselves in a situation where someone's like, oh, fuck people that can't ride bikes. What are they, idiots? Oh man, I can't ride a bike. That hurts my feelings. Good. Go fuck yourself, because you're still willing to say all these terrible words that offended people and you just didn't care. Good. Whatever it is, and then you're going to get upset at that one person. You're not going to be like, oh, they got me good. It doesn't hurt my feelings at all. And then go home and cry. I mean, like, just don't. Just stop. Just, I don't know. I'm going to end this now just because it's getting me upset thinking about people saying mean things when there's absolutely no reason to say mean things whatsoever. Um, so just, be excellent to each other and party on, dudes.